Hello, hello. This is Mickey Sunshine Creates, and I'm Mickey. Welcome to my channel. If you haven't subscribed before, please consider subscribing and hit that button. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be told whenever I upload a video or go live, which is every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I wanted to talk today. This is a WIP Chat. So get out your WIPs and whatever you're working on, diamond painting, cross stitching, paint by number, whatever you're working on, coloring, and sit with me while I talk to you about my cats. Aww. I've had some wonderful cats over the years. I really have. I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky. And I'm grateful for them because they keep me sane. They keep me relaxed and pretty much anxiety free. You know, they're good companions, cats. I mean, they don't always come when you call, but they're there when you need you, when you need them. I can't talk today, so forgive me if I stumble over my words. But let me tell you about the first cat I had after my last marriage. I couldn't have a cat with him because he was allergic, of course. And I gave up a cat that I had then to be with him, which was the first sign I shouldn't have been with him. But that's another story. The first cat I had was called Gummidge. And I went looking for him specifically. Now, the name Gummidge comes from a story by Fritz Leiber, Space-Time for Springer. And it's about a kitten who thinks if he drinks coffee, if they give him coffee, he will become a human boy. Unlike the baby who can't do anything. I mean, he's very good. And there's another adult cat in the house, and Gummidge has to watch out for the baby because the other cat is sneaky. Which, by the way, I'm working on Sneaky Cat. I'm almost done, as you can see. I've got just this much more to do. And, so Gummidge protects the baby, is caught in the baby's crib, and is sentenced to be outside. But it's a nice story, and I wanted a Gummidge. So I went looking for a Gummidge. I said, I'll do him when I see him. And I went to this no-kill shelter that was in a house. And she kept the cats either outside, they were indoor-outdoor cats, or in the garage in pens until she can find them homes. And there were a lot of cats there. A lot of cats. So I'm walking around, I'm looking at the cats, you know, picking up one or two here and seeing if it's the right fit. And this little gray tabby is following me everywhere. And I mean everywhere I go. I go inside, he follows me inside. I go outside, he follows me outside. I sit down on a bench, and he sits down right next to me. Well, suffice to say that he was mine. He was my Gummidge. And I knew it. I knew it. So I wanted him, but he had been promised to a monastery. And there was another cat there, a gorgeous Turkish van, which is all white with red hair and red markings, with a red tail and red markings. Absolutely beautiful. And I had told her if she can talk them out of taking this particular cat, I'll take them both. So I wound up taking them both. And I called the Turkish van Growl Tiger. And that's from T.S. Eliot's poem about cats. So I bring Growl Tiger and Gummidge home. And we're fine for some time. Gummidge turns out to be very affectionate. And he was my cat. He used to sleep on my head, on my pillow. And I used to have to scoot down in order to give him room. I'll never forget that. But he was so adorable and so sweet. Now, Growl Tiger, on the other hand, was not very affectionate. And unfortunately, he used to pee everywhere, except in the box. So I'd always find pee on the sides of the wall or in a doorway. It was getting to be too much. But one day he let himself out. He ran out. And I was a little worried about him. But I knew he could defend himself. At least I thought so. Until one day he comes limping home. He used to come back and forth and eat and then go out again. But one day he comes limping home and he's got this gash from shoulder to wrist, if you can call it that, on a cat. And it cost me a pretty penny to have him stitched up and fixed and drained, and I had to go back to the vet several times, and I had to keep him inside, so it wouldn't get infected and he wouldn't remove his stitches. And he wound up staying indoors now at this point. But he still continued to pee outside the box. And we tried everything. We tried all sorts of behavioral change. We added more litter boxes. We tried to remove whatever was stressing him out. There was no go. He wanted to be an outdoor cat. He wanted to be outdoors. And it was as simple as that, because when he was an indoor-outdoor cat, he didn't pee in the house. But we had to move from where we were, and we went into a rental because I lost my house. And we went into a rental, and we're there a short time, and Growl Tiger pees in the hall, in the doorway again, and I step right in it. Oh, that was awful. It wasn't fair either. At that point, we decided we need to rehome him. So we brought him over to the ASPCA, and we told them exactly what he was and why we were bringing him in, and that he needed to be an indoor-outdoor cat. And we couldn't do it where we lived. So they took him, and we went down there every 3 weeks to see if he had been adopted. If he hadn't been adopted, we were going to pay the fee, because after 4 weeks, they will euthanize animals that aren't adopted, that came in after a month. So I didn't want that to happen. And we decided we're going to pay the fee to keep him another month until he can find a home. If we had to pay it every month, we'd pay it every month. We didn't want him killed, and I couldn't find a no-kill shelter at the time. So he did get adopted that first month, which was nice. And Gummidge was by himself now. But Gummidge had been so used to having Growl Tiger there that he needed companionship. He looked around. I was leaving him alone all day because I worked. You know, so was my husband at the time. And then when we split up, no, this is before we split up. But we needed him. We needed a companion for him. So we went looking. And we drove around to the various shelters and the ASPCA and everywhere we could think of. And we were driving by this vet's office when I saw a cage in the window. And in the cage were a few cats that were up for adoption. So we went in and I asked if I could see one of the cats. So this lady brings out this, 4-month-old black and white long-haired kitty. Semi-long-haired, I would say. Short on the body, long on the tail, and around the collar and the ears. And I picked him up, and he went on his back and melted. I later found out he was a ragamuffin. Not a rag doll, because a rag doll has to have certain colorings, but a ragamuffin because he was. They're pronounced. What's the word I'm looking for? Trait is that they will melt in your arms. They're like rag dolls. They'll just lean over your arm and hang out and not move and not care, and you can rub their belly and everything, and they're just happy. And he was such a happy cat. And I had him for quite some time. And then Gummidge passed away, which was a shame because he was my bed buddy. And I missed him terribly. So I went looking for another cat because I have to have cats around me. And I went looking for another cat, and I wound up at this no-kill shelter again, which was in a house. She had a shelter, but she used to take all the cats that were sick and bring them to her home to recover so that they wouldn't reinfect the other cats that were in the shelter. So I went to her house, and I'm looking at all these cats all over the place. And in her kitchen were babies, maybe about 2-3 weeks old. Apparently their mommy had been killed, and she was bottle feeding them. And they were tiny little babies, but they were so cute and so adorable. And I'm sitting there on the floor. Of course I'm playing with them, because who can resist a whole gaggle of little kitties? So I keep saying so a lot. Sorry about that. And this one little gray kitten came up to me and walked onto my thigh and laid down and went to sleep. I mean, talk about trust and love. But I didn't want a baby at that time. I mean, that was too young to adopt. So I went back home. And I took one of the pregnant, sick cats so she could give birth in peace. And she gave birth, but unfortunately the kittens didn't live. She was a scrawny little thing. And it wasn't expected that they would live. They were She was underfed and just really in bad shape. And a bit young to be having a litter. But I took her home anyway, and I fostered her for a few weeks until she gave birth and the babies passed away. And I brought her back to the shelter. So I brought her back to the shelter, and I'm walking around, seeing if there's any new cats that strike my fancy. And this little gray kitten is still there. Now he's about 4 weeks old, I guess. I'd say about 4 weeks old. So he's a little bigger, and he's following me everywhere. Reminded me of Gummidge in the way that he just kept following me. And the lady's trying to say, this is the cat for you. You should take this cat. And I'm going, no, he's not right. He wasn't what I was looking for. It just didn't feel right. I wasn't ready for them. I needed to look some more. So I went home, but I fostered a little red cat for her who was sick and needed to be kept away from all the other sick cats. I said, is she going to infect my cat? And she said, probably not. And that was true to form. I called her Lucy because I always wanted to say, Lucy, come home. But she wasn't the cat for me either. It just wasn't right, and if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel right. So again, this little cat gets well, and I bring her back to the shelter so they can adopt her out. And now this cat, this little baby gray cat, is 5 weeks old. No, not 5 weeks old, more older than that. Maybe about 2 months, give or take. And sick again. Well, had a upper respiratory infection. And must have got it from the other cats in the shelter. So she had brought him back. And this time, she asked me if I would take this cat, this gray one, so he could stay away from the sick cats and get better. So I said, sure, I'll foster him. So I took him home. And I said, this is not the cat I wanted. But I took him home, and I fed him, and I put him in a little corner where he can curl up and be comfortable, and went to sleep. I woke up the next morning with him curled under my arm. And that was it. That was it. He had me. He just made me fall in love with him right then and there. Because when you wake up with a little kitten nestled in your armpit, it was so nice. It really was. It was wonderful. And I wound up calling him Furby. And Furby was Gummidge times 10. Where Gummidge was affectionate, Furby was outrageously affectionate. Where Gummidge would sleep with me on my pillow, Furby would sleep with me on my bed and lean right against my back when I went to sleep. He would butt my chin with his head all the time when he wanted attention. It was just, I'd never had a cat do that. He used to leap into my arms. He thought he was a dog. He did, I swear. Furby thought he was a dog. Because he would wait for me by the door And he'd be there when I came home. I'm sure he heard the car coming down the street and ran to the door where I would come in. And he would leap into my arms. I just had to go, come on. And up he'd go. So he was so sweet and so nice. And I loved him so much. And he and Chaplin, because Chaplin was the name of the black and white kitten that we named him Chaplin. They had been calling him Hitler because he had this little white mustache right in the middle of his nose. And I said, no, you can't call him Hitler. We can call him Charlie Chaplin, but we can't call him Hitler. So I changed his name to Chaplin, and he was just a love. He used to love belly rubs and everything. And he and Furby got along so well. I mean, they were buddies from the start. From the very beginning. They were buds. And I loved that cat more than anything. He used to make me feel so much better when I was anxious or scared or nervous or depressed, and he just made me feel better. You know? And I loved him until he passed away when he was 12. No, I'm sorry, Chaplin passed away first. And Furby was alone, so we had to get another cat. And the funniest thing, though, about Furby, let me go backtrack. The funniest thing is that Gummidge had passed away on February 2nd. I'll never forget because it's Groundhog's Day. And apparently Furby was born on February 2nd. Which is why I said he was for Gummidge times 10. Because he was born the day that Gummidge passed away. And I felt, well, there he is. Cats have 9 lives. He's come back to me. So he came back to me. But then Chaplin passed away, and I needed a companion for Furby. So I went looking. Unfortunately, I went with my girlfriend, who wound up taking this scruffy little baby kitten, fostering it, and then wound up keeping him. And there had been a cat around her neighborhood, a kitten that had been born, and she wanted to bring him over to me so I could take care of him. I said, but I've never met her. I don't know if I want her. How do I know if I want her? Well, she brought the cat over. It turned out to be this beautiful little calico called Jaxie, after Jackson Pollock, because she looked like somebody put paint all over him. Her. Sorry, she was a female. And Jaxie, as a kitten, was very rambunctious. And Furby, as an older cat, was not. So Jaxie used to stress Furby out a lot. I mean, you could tell he was stressed. And it was not the right fit for him. But what was I going to do? You know, I didn't have the time or wherewithal to rehome her. And she was a good cat. You know, but she and Furby did not get along. I still to this day don't know why. Well, she got along with him. He didn't get along with her. And then Furby passed away. Oh, that was a terrible day. I missed him so much. But again, I went looking for another cat. Because I always have to have two. They keep each other company. So Jaxie and I were alone and we needed another cat. And I went looking. By this time I had a roommate for a long time. And he really loved the cats too. But this time I wanted a Maine Coon or a Maine Coon mix. That's the cat I wanted. And that's what I had in my mind my mind's eye when I was looking. And I go online to petfinder.com, and there is a Maine Coon kitten in a shelter a couple of miles from me, which in Florida is a couple of blocks. So I went over and I went into the back room where this kitten was, and 1, 2, 3, I picked up the kitten and I said, Gizmo. And that's what his name was, Gizmo, and is. So now I have Gizmo and Jaxie, and Gizmo now drives Jaxie crazy. Hey, turnabout's fair play. Gizmo's always going after her, has to have her spot. She's laying on my pillow, and he'll walk over and bite her until she leaves. He doesn't bite her hard. It's just annoying. He annoys her, you could tell. But she goes along with it. She's such a good-natured cat. And sweet and lovable. She turned into a love. So now I have these two beautiful babies, Jaxie and Gizmo. And I'm no longer alone. I got them. And I got two kitties, and I hope they stay with me for a long time. But those are my two cats. Those are my two cats. Those are the cats that I've had over the years. I have had others when I was younger, but none as memorable as these. These were all super, super memorable. They all had distinct personalities and distinct ways about them, and they were all affectionate, except for Growl Tiger. He just was not an affectionate cat. He just wanted to be indoor, outdoor. I mean, he liked us well enough. He'd come home for food. But I worried about him out there, and I was right to worry because he did get hurt. Still, I loved my cats. And I still love my cats. And if I could, I would have more. I would foster, and I would help, and I would adopt more and have a house full of cats. But at my age, it's impossible to take care of them all. It's hard enough taking care of two. Thank God I have my roommate who helps out, so I don't have to do it alone. But since I'm working on Sneaky Cat, I thought I'd talk about my cats. And there you have it. There's the saga of the kitties. Saga of Mickey's kitties. I remember when I was young, though, we had a cat named Cheetah. She was also a calico. And she was an indoor-outdoor cat, mostly outdoor cat that we fed. And she was just adorable, really cute, very small. And one day, she comes in the house, and she's meowing for my mother. And she won't leave my mother alone. I mean, she follows her. She goes upstairs, she goes downstairs. She wants to be near my mother. And none of us could figure out why. So finally, In order to get some sleep, my mom got a carton to put her in and a towel to let her sleep, and left her hand in the carton so the cat would know she wasn't alone. And the next morning, there was a little white squirrely thing in the carton with her. My mother at first thought it was a mouse. Pure white. Thought it was a white mouse. We've had white mice before as pets. But it turned out to be a kitten. A baby. She had one baby. We didn't even know she was pregnant. We had no idea she was pregnant because she was only pregnant with one kitten, which is very unusual. But it was her first litter, and I guess she hadn't been out there that long. Or we'd had her in the house when she was in heat for most of the time. I don't know. I was a kid. I didn't know anything about cats at the time. But we had that one kitten, and we called him Baby, because he was a baby. He was just so cute, pure white. And my grandmother did not want to keep the cat in the house. We lived with my grandma, my mom, my brother, and I. And my grandmother did not want to keep the cat in the house. She wouldn't mind him coming in once in a while, but at night and for most of the day, the cat had to be outside. So we let her out. And he and his mommy, who we used to call Cheetah. The calico was named Cheetah. They used to go wandering around the neighborhood. Now, Cheetah, I don't know what happened to her. I don't know if she disappeared or if she was still there when I left. I don't remember. But I do remember I was 14 years old and my brother came in the house carrying Baby and said, "He just got hit by a car." And I was hysterical. Now back then, we didn't have cell phones or push button phones. We had one of those old-fashioned dial-em-up phones. And in order to get the police, we didn't have 911, you had to call the operator. And often the operator's line was busy. And I kept calling and calling, and the line was busy, and I couldn't get through. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wanted to find out if there was a emergency vet somewhere where we can take him. But I remember my brother turning to me and saying, "Don't bother, it's too late." And I was devastated. That cat was only about, 9 months, 10 months old when he passed, when he got hit by the car. And it was so unfair. I thought, he's so young. He should have been an indoor cat. We should have kept him in the house. But, nope. Grandma didn't want it. She didn't want a litter box. She didn't want to take care of it. She said, if you want a cat, it's an indoor, outdoor, you can feed her outdoors. And that was such a sad time. But it was a good time too, because it was one of the only times my brother showed affection towards me. I know he's such a little... Let's not talk about brothers. Because I can go on and on and on about mine. He's a good guy. But there's always a but. But I'm not going to tell you because that's another story for maybe another time. if at all. I don't like talking about bad things about people or my family. So I don't, if I can help it. And I can help it. So there you have the saga of my cats. All my babies, all my fur babies. And Gizmo and Jaxie are out on the patio right now enjoying the sun. And it is a partly cloudy day, so they're getting some sun. Not a lot, but some. And they'll come in here soon anyway and proceed to lay down and sleep. Because that's what these cats do. They eat, sleep, poop, and play. Just not a bad life. Kind of like my life now. I eat, I sleep, I poop, and when I can. And I play with my diamond paintings. So they're so much fun. I just love them. I can't see me ever without a cat. I mean, I don't care how old I am. I have to have a cat. Even if I have to hire somebody to clean the litter box. Because I can no longer bend over. Which is getting close to that now. And my cats are my life. I don't know what I'd do without them. I really don't. I mean, diamond painting is calming and everything. But when I get that really anxious feeling or I'm super depressed, just having them nearby calms me down. You know, there's nothing like petting a fur thing. And that's what they are, fur things. Well, I think I've talked enough about cats. Yes, I have had dogs too. But dogs require walking, and unfortunately, I can no longer do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can walk for short periods and short distances, but I can't walk for long distances. Long enough to let a dog have their exercise and poop and enjoy themselves, because that's what you got to do. You got to walk them and enjoy them outside and have some fun. I love dogs too. They're so sweet. They're so loyal. All right. Enough about pets. Let me know if any of you have pets, if you have cats or dogs, and what is special about them. You can write that in the comments below, and let me know that. What kind of cats, animals do you have as pets, and what is so special about them to you? I would love to know that. And I think we're gonna stop here. And I'm gonna say to you once more, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I upload a video or go live. And I go live every Friday at 8 p.m. And until then, and the next time, Arrivederci.